Thank you so much for joining me today for this webinar, which is very, very interesting. And not only because of the topic that we're going to talk about today, but also because this is an open house. So it's a little different from most of the time when I do the webinars. I'm mostly talking about a particular topic, and it's almost most of the time I'm explaining and then there are question and answers, but today is quite different. So welcome to this different webinar in which I'm there to answer all your queries that you have about mind sciences, particularly about hypnotherapy. So it will be very helpful. I think we are not a very big group. Okay, no, we're not very small either. So what we can do is two things. We could either use the chat box. I'm just going to try and message you and see if that is working. Yeah, looks like it's working. And so if you have questions, you can start to shoot your questions on the chat box. The other way around is to unmute yourself and again bring up whatever queries that you have, and I'm there to answer that. Just to give you a very little brief about people whom I'm meeting for the first time. Some of you I know already, some of you I know very well, especially my students. And there are some people that I'm meeting for the first time. So welcome once again, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Arpita, and I'm a holistic therapist at Illuminations in their JLT branch. I come from India. I've been in Dubai for more than 13 years now. I live with my family, my husband, my two children, and my dogs. What I do now as a profession is I'm a holistic therapist. However, this wasn't my first choice in my life many years back. I studied economics, I did my MBA, and I worked in the corporate sector for more than 15 years. And then I was introduced to the line of work, to hypnotherapy in particular, what we are going to talk about. And if I try and remember that time, I must admit that I had a very, very different view of hypnotherapy. And mostly probably because what we see outside in the media, what we see in our movies, and I had a very different, partly wrong, misconceived notion about what hypnotherapy was. But I came into this line of work to heal myself. I had no agenda at that point of time to quit my corporate career and become a therapist. But I guess there's a point in life when, you know, if it's your calling, it keeps calling you as well. So that's what happened to me. I worked as a client with hypnotherapy, and to my absolute amazement, it worked beautifully, not only with me for my issues, but it also transpired to healing something in my daughter, though she didn't have any direct therapy done on her. It was only through me, through surrogate work, that um, a very critical physical issue in my daughter got healed. And that's what got me very interested in this line of work. That's where I came back. I studied integrated clinical hypnotherapy. Today, I not only practice as a hypnotherapist, but I am also a teacher of clinical hypnotherapy, the same course that I studied many years back. And I'm extremely passionate about this line of work at a personal level because it helped me immensely. And of course, it is my second innings, it's my second career that brings me here. So that's about me. I will leave it open, and I would let you ask your questions. What is it that you have on your mind? What is your notion of hypnotherapy? And I will take it on from there, and we'll start. Yes, you can either unmute, Majid, is that you? You can unmute yourself and ask me, or you can type in the chat box, whatever suits you.
Hello, Arpita. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
I had a patient, and after him like pinpointing the keywords and what he says, basically, I realized that his problem that led to his divorce and all that is fear of abandonment since childhood. So I'm asking, like, how hypnotherapy as a tool would be able to help me help him.
Okay, so have you identified that as like the core issue as the fear of abandonment in his childhood?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Okay. So yes, why hypnotherapy and will help and how hypnotherapy will help is hypnotherapy is one of the branches of mind science where we do not treat people on what is symptomatic, like what is on top on the surface as a symptom. uh, our jobs as therapists, as hypnotherapists, is to dive way deeper into where the root cause is. So as you say that there is an event happening which is the divorce or what is relationship issues, but these issues are on the surface. When I say on the surface, it's like if I have a rash on my hand and tonight I put some cream and I go to bed, it will give me temporary relief, but over when I get up tomorrow morning, it can come up again. So as
Well,
hypnotherapists, we go below
basically,
the surface. Yes?
basically, he was saying like he had a situation with his ex-wife, and because of that, they ended up getting divorced. And he said it had wounded him. And from talking with him, I understood. I told him, she didn't cause the wound; she agitated it. The wound
Yeah.
has been there for a very long time,
Yeah.
and basically the root cause is his fear of being abandonment because of certain things that happened in his childhood. So if I were to go about treating him, then how would hypnotherapy help me resolve this problem?
Correct. So you're 100% right. What happens in our environment that actually triggers the what you call as the deepest wounds. Let me open and share my presentation. I want you to I'll take you through it as I answer your question. Where did we go? Just give me one minute. So when we are talking about hypnotherapy, I'm going to take a step behind and then explain and come right to your question that you have. We are here talking about the science of our subconscious mind, which is exactly what you're saying, that there's a deeper understanding to why this, whatever is happening in this person's life. Now, when we talk of hypnotherapy and when we talk of mind science, we are actually talking of this intangible asset with which we are living life, what we call as the mind. Now, mind is not the brain. First and foremost, we do not work with the brain. For brain, we go to a neuroscientist, we can go to a psychiatrist. That's a different line of work. We as therapists, we are working on the software that works on the hardware of the brain, and then there is of course a trigger that is setting. Now I am skipping the slides. I'll go directly to what you're asking is this. We are talking about the tool that is the mind. We are talking about the software that is the mind. Now, of course, we know that there are two parts to it. There is a conscious part and there is a subconscious part. You can treat this as an iceberg. In an iceberg, only 10% or 1/10 of the iceberg is what we see on top of the ocean, and in reality the rest of the iceberg is submerged. It is the same for us. So when this fight happens between the couple or there's a divorce, what we are processing here, we are only processing from the point of view of our conscious mind, which is your thinking, your logic, your analysis, your decision making, all your cognitive functions. Now, what does hypnotherapy do? Hypnotherapy, and that's the difference between cognitive behavioral therapy, counseling, and hypnotherapy, is these other modalities that they work on the conscious mind. And they are beautiful modalities, and different modalities suit different people. This is not to say that only solutions are to be reached with hypnotherapy. It can come through any other modality. Today we are talking about hypnotherapy, and to categorically answer your question, this is only 10%, which means there is a bigger side to it, which is unconscious to the client. He or she may not be able to understand the linkage. Now, hypnosis or hypnotherapy is a modality in which we first deal with the conscious mind, we gather the data, we do the case receiving, and then taking permission from the conscious mind, we actually deep dive into what you see here as the bottom part of the iceberg is your subconscious mind. Now, what does subconscious mind then do? As you see, all our cognitive functions are all lying in our conscious part of the mind. But our subconscious mind is actually like it's a machine. It's like a tool. It's like a tape recorder, which has recorded every moment of our lives into files. So imagine from the time that you were not even born, from the time you were in your mother's womb to this very moment, zillions of files are copy pasted in this space. That's function number one. The second function that it does is it keeps us alive. So for example, if I say you can raise your right hand and wave at me, each one of us can do it because it's very easy. It's the voluntary movements in our bodies are governed by the conscious mind. But if I say that now so easily you can wave your hand, which means with the same ease, you can stop your liver from functioning for the next 10 seconds. Can any of us do it? We can't. And that is because this comes from the subconscious space. Not only is it is 10% and 90%, if you look at the strength of their minds, if the strength of the conscious mind is 1x, the strength of the subconscious mind is 6,000 times x. So if there is a pattern of abandonment, which in my words here is, imagine out of the zillion files that are sitting in the subconscious mind, imagine there are corrupted files. By corrupted file, I mean files which are emotionally very charged. They carry that maybe many incidents of abandonment. I'm just going with the premise that that is the core. It may not be all the time, but I'm just giving an example from what you quoted. It means now when from the environment a new trigger comes, which would come from the marriage, which would come from the partner, it is almost like earthquake that happens in the subconscious space. And because the job of the subconscious mind is to keep us alive, subconscious completely takes over. It gets into a fight or a flight mode, which is either person will withdraw or person will go into total confrontation. And as a result, there's a breakdown of the smooth functioning of life. How do we do this? To answer the second part of your question, we do this through trance. When we say trance, it's a misconception on what you see on TV or media where, we click our fingers and somebody quacks like a duck. It doesn't happen in therapy. Hypnotherapy is a tool in which we take permission from the conscious mind, and then the conscious mind is still there. We do not switch it off. So you do not go to sleep. You do not forget things. You more or less most of the times remember what's happening in the session. But there is a channel. Imagine there's a channel between the conscious and the subconscious mind, and we are able to go and first do the diagnosis. First go and diagnose through there, and there are various techniques in hypnotherapy that can be used to go and diagnose those files that trigger this fear of abandonment. Number one. Number two, when we recognize those memories, when we recognize those files, our job is to neutralize it. We don't delete files. We don't say, oh, abandonment never happened in your life. Of course it's happened, but it's happened in the past. The techniques is what you learn in the course that I'm talking about today. There are many ways to do it. The end result is, imagine if there are many files that carry a negative charge, our job is to neutralize that. So that now in the current life, in the current moment, if there is any other trigger that comes from outside, a person does not respond from the subconscious space. These files are no longer, it's like initially it would be like a domino effect. So one file falls and all of them are tugged along the way. That is what we stop. We heal the excess charge, the baggage that people carry from their past experiences, from their belief systems, and we neutralize it. That is in a very short way to explain how hypnotherapy works. The major ingredient in this is the subconscious mind. The major ingredient in this is we do it through trance. Trance is a state in which our physical bodies are very relaxed. It is almost like the physical body is sleeping, but our minds are extremely agile. And that's where the word hypnosis, if you look at the origin of it, it comes from the Greek word hypnos, which means nervous sleep. It's a paradox, right? It can't be, you cannot be nervous and sleeping at the same time. And that's true. What this word means is it's a state of awareness, it's a deep state of relaxation actually, in which your physical body is almost like it is asleep, it is so relaxed, but your mind is hypersensitive. And we use this sensitive mind, this alert mind, to dive deep into our subconscious to reach where the genesis of the problem lies. Pick those files literally. Imagine this to be the hard drive of your computer. You literally pick up those files and you neutralize them. Let me know if that answers your question, Majid, about how we do it. And in the meanwhile, I will check if there are any other. I think there's one more question I saw on the chat.
Just a follow-up. I
Yes.
don't quite understand what you mean with neutralize them. Like,
okay.
What does that mean, neutralize them?
Neutralize means we heal those memories. For example, imagine, I'll give a very different example. Say, when I was 3 years old, I was bitten by a dog. Now, when that incident happened with me when I was 3 years old, that memory is a file, is what we are talking about in terms of the files. Now, that memory has two parts to it. A, it has a fact. And the fact is, I was 3 years old, dog came, I was bitten by the dog, and then it was very painful. That's a simple fact. The second part that these memories contain is the emotion. And the emotion that got stuck onto the file, for example, in this case, say I have fear of dogs. So there are two parts you're dealing with. You're dealing with a fact and you're dealing with an emotion. When I say we neutralize it, when I say we heal it, we actually neutralize this emotion. We don't change the fact. We don't say, oh, dog never came and bite never happened. It happened. It was painful. But the fact remains that that happened when I was 3 years old. Today, I am an adult. And there is no need for me to carry that emotional charge of that fear that got stuck. So there are techniques under hypnosis that we use to release these emotions, the stuck emotions from the past that we are still carrying into the present. So that what will happen with that is the next time I'm encountering a dog, I will not be in that panic state. I may not love the dog. I may not want to go and hug the dog, but the presence of the dog will not, make my breathing go heavy, make my heart palpitate. I will be in a state of neutrality. And that is the healing through hypnotherapy. If we are talking of regression therapy under hypnotherapy, going back in time to those memories, to those charges that we carry, and neutralize them. So that when something happens today, I am acting as the adult of today. I'm able to gather the resources as the adult. That's what I mean by neutralizing it. Not deleting it, but removing any emotional charge. And I still cannot understand why I can't access the question. I think there's Noora had a question, but I'm just not able to go to the chat. So just bear with me for 2 minutes. Oh, chat is here. Noora says, hello, I'm very new to hypnotherapy. Could you explain how the session goes and how it works? Yeah, Noura, I hope you got part of the answer in terms of how it goes. I'll add to about what happens in the session. So when we are, if you're new to it completely, if you were my client, I would first take the opportunity to explain the concept of the mind to you. When I say the concept of the mind, again, we are not talking of our brains. We are not talking of the hardware of the body. We start with giving you information about the mind, which of course I just did now. It is there's a conscious part, there's a subconscious part. Now, mind is not tangible. It's not an asset that we can touch. For example, our bodies are tangible, our brain is tangible, but our mind is not. And this mind is all around us. We are experiencing life through this element, through this software called mind. So my first step would be in the session would be to explain very cognitively how it works. And that brings me to the myths about hypnotherapy, where people say that I will lose complete control. That's not true. You don't lose control. Your conscious mind is still there and you are constantly talking with your therapist. Once that cognitive part is over, of course, we talk about what is your issue, what is it that you want to work on. So we do a case receiving. And then with your permission, there are techniques to induct you into the state of hypnosis. Again, repeating myself, but I think it's important that hypnosis is not mumbo jumbo, it's not magic. It's a very clinical, it's a very clean way of putting your body at rest, having your mind extremely active, and diving deep in that state into your subconscious mind for you to find the answers of all these, logical, illogical questions that are there in life where you don't get a logical answer. The session is generally anywhere between 1 hour to hour and a half, 90 minutes. And it would be divided into first case receiving, then doing the induction, doing the healing, the diagnostics, the healing. You come out of the session, come out of hypnosis, and we have a chat. That's how generally the session goes. You remember what you do in the session. You do not go into any other dimension. Your body is very much in the room. Of course, you're in a what we call as a suggestible state, which means you're very, very open to discovering, going back in time, looking at your memories, releasing the stuck emotions. And when I say stuck emotions, it is just not in the mind, but also physical release of emotions, because sometimes not sometimes, many times, we do carry a lot of emotions and their pressure on our physical bodies. Let me know if that answers your question, Noura. Of course, if not, I will again rephrase that. Medha says, is there any levels in hypnotherapy like Theta or Reiki healing? Medha, do you mean the depth of hypnosis? Then yes, there are depths. Let me first take on the levels of, if you mean the levels, let me explain in terms of the brain waves, and then you will be able to understand with Theta particularly what I mean. I believe any of these, I'm not an expert in Theta. I am a Reiki practitioner, so I understand Reiki better than Theta, but I have a lot of clients who have done Theta healing. So it's very similar. So let me explain this from the perspective of our brain waves. Now, if anybody was to, track and map your and my brain waves at the moment, the brain waves would have a certain wavelength and a certain amplitude. That is because we are awake, and this state of the brain waves is called the beta state. Now, when you are falling asleep or you're going into trance, you're doing meditation, you're doing breath work, any of these activities, there's a drop in the amplitude and wavelength of our brain waves. So from beta, we go into alpha. If we go deeper into trance, if we are going deeper into like sleep-like trance, we go from beta to alpha, we go to theta, and then we go to delta, and delta is the sleep state. So sleep state is a state in which the conscious mind is no longer awake. So when we go into theta, that is the brain waves, or that is the state in which theta healing is done. So it is extremely similar to hypnosis in terms of that state. If you have done theta, this is when they say you connect to the creator, right? You connect to the source, and then that healing is happening. So it's very similar in that way. Hypnosis could be anywhere between these states, from the, you know, the movement from the alpha to the theta to delta to back. This, it's like how you see the waves of the ocean coming on the shore. It's like that. So it is very, very similar to that. So hypnotic trance, meditative trance, theta trance is very similar. Now, let me explain in terms of when, if you mean that the levels by the depth, yes, different people experience hypnotherapy in different ways. We never have a mathematical measure of depth. We never say, oh, this person has gone to this level, so tick mark on my checklist. It's not mathematical, it's very subjective. The light trance is what we call as a hypnoidal trance, which means it is you're getting into from beta into the alpha state. In this state, you are what characterizes this state is a very rapid movement of the eyes. So if somebody is going into that state, you can actually look at your client and you can see there's going to be rapid movement of eyes. When client goes deeper from the hypnoidal state, the next state is what we call as cataleptic. In cataleptic state, the eyeballs start to move. Instead of the random movement, it will start to move sideways. So it's a very smooth sideways movement. And then when you go into the deepest level of trance, what we call as the somnambulistic trance, and at this level, it is possible to lose track of time and space, and sometimes partially people don't remember. So there is partial amnesia at times in this state as well. And this is when, this is similar to a very deep meditative trance where your eyeballs can also roll up a little bit. So there are these three very distinct levels of trance that people can experience under hypnosis. On that note, I'd also like to mention that there is no right and wrong trance. It is not like, oh, going deep is the best thing. No. If we are working with hypnosis and we are doing suggestion-based therapy, then yes, a somnambulistic, a deep trance is what we want, because the deeper the suggestion goes, the better the mind absorbs it. However, if we have a client who has just come in and we are doing detective work, you know, we are like Sherlock Holmes, we are doing diagnostic works, then it's a light trance that we first put in, so that there is, client is talking to us and there is information that is being shared. So there is no right and wrong, not one trance is better than the other, and each individual feels hypnosis in a very different way. What I want to also add to this is hypnosis is not an unknown phenomena. It is not a magical phenomena that is happening in the therapist's room. To the contrary, each one of us experience hypnotherapy every single day, at least twice a day. When you wake up in the morning, you know, you switch off your alarm and you're half asleep, you're half awake, and you're getting up. That phase is hypnotic trance. When you're going back to sleep at night, so tonight you can be aware of it. When you switch off the lights, you've kept your book away and you take a turn and you're trying to fall asleep, but you're not fully asleep, is also hypnotic trance. When you're watching Netflix, you're binging on Netflix, it is hypnotic trance. When you're watching TV, it's hypnotic trance. So we are a lot of times in that trance very, very unknowingly. What happens in a clinical setup is, with the permission of client and with a very clear objective of what client wants to work with, we then use this trance as a medium of healing. I hope that answers, Medha. If not, again, please shoot your questions. More than happy to answer. That's the entire purpose of the webinar today. So Noora, your question is answered. Okay, thank you. Thank you. So I will wait again for your questions to come in. And in the meanwhile, because I touch based on the myths about, you know, what is hypnotherapy and what it is not, because this is the most, probably one of the most talked about topics of when we talk of hypnotherapy. So I'm going to quickly take you through it, because I understand a lot of you are also first time into this webinar and first time learning about hypnosis. So these are the myths. Now this is based on my experience as a therapist. These are the most frequently asked questions for all my newcomers who are students, who are doing consultations, who come in for therapy, hypnotherapy for the first time. The biggest myth of hypnotherapy is I am going to be helpless. I cannot move my body, and therapists can put anything that they like. And none of that is true. You're not at all helpless. Your conscious mind is very much present. You do not go to La La Land. You do not lose a limb, a leg somewhere. You do not get stuck. These are the words I hear from clients, and it is not. We are laughing about it now, but it is very important, because all these fears that are there around this modality actually discourages people to use it. But none of this is true. Under hypnosis, you are still awake. Your conscious mind is still there. So, for example, if I'm doing a session and say there's an emergency, there's like the fire alarm of the building rings. Of course, we are not going to stay in the room because we are in a hypnotic state. I will count up my client and I will go out and walk out with him or her. And the person is absolutely fit and fine to do that. So there is no question of helplessness. There is no question of loss of control. At any time, if there's anything uncomfortable that comes up for client can talk, client can open eyes, client can get up, can walk. The only thing we do is we integrate them better. We give them a count so that they're completely out of that state. Second thing, not everyone can be hypnotized. It's again a myth. Anybody who is sleeping at night and getting up in the morning is getting hypnotized. So everyone can experience hypnosis, but only if they are willing to do so. As therapists, we do not do it with people who are who say, no, I don't want to get this. So it's not about special powers of hypnotizing people, or we don't use dowsing pendulums or any of that sort. But everyone can be hypnotized should they wish to, which means people who come for therapy, they are actually struggling with certain things in their lives. There are issues, there are actual clinical, medical issues that they come up with. And with their permission, then we take them into trance and then we work with them. But there is no one on the face of earth who wants to be in that state and cannot be. Certainly, it's for everyone. Hypnosis is the same as sleeping. It is not. Sleeping is when the brain waves go into the delta state, and that is completely different from hypnosis, because in hypnosis, we are in a trance-like state. We are not sleeping. In case somebody falls asleep in the session, we gently wake them up, because there's a constant dialogue happening. There is work, there is healing, there is release, there is catharsis, all of that is happening. So hypnosis and sleeping is not the same. Trance is very different from the sleep state. I'll take the question, Anissa. Oh, where did this jump off? Give me a second, Anissa. Lovely to meet and hear you. This is also interesting, and I'm really looking forward to starting my course with you on the 11th of June. Oh, that's great, Anissa. I'm also then looking forward to see you in class. And I can tell you, I don't think we have met, so I don't know the objective with which you're coming, but I can guarantee you that life will not remain the same once you start this course. And of course, you will never stop at only level 1. It is fascinating, it is beautiful, and at a very personal note, if you ask me, I think mind sciences should be taught in school, just like how we study math and English and chemistry and geography. So probably someday. But yes, Anissa, I will see you in class. Nandini has a question. Can you please tell more about the course, the different levels and overall duration to become a certified hypnotherapist? How are we sure that during the hypnotic state, one is not imagining things? Thank you, Nandini. Very, very relevant, both questions. I'm coming to that. And Anissa has another comment. In case I leave before the end of the session, that would be because my baby needs me. And okay. Yeah, of course, your baby gets your attention first. No doubts about it. Just in case you're not there, Anissa, of course, I will see you in class. The webinar is being recorded, so Illuminations will anyway send you the recording. Okay, Coming to Nandini, your question about the course. So the course is, hold on, let me see if I have any information on the course on my presentation here. Even if not, of course, I will explain. No, I don't think we have it here, but let me explain. So the course has 5 levels. Level 1, I'll give you the durations first. Level 1 is a 2-day course. Level 2 and level 3 are 5 days each. Level 4 is 6 days and level 5 is 8 days. In level 1, you are learning about the induction techniques. You're learning about the concept of the theory of mind, how our mind functions. You're learning about human behavior, suggestibility of how people take in information, how people give out information. You're learning self-hypnosis. It's packed 2 days of a lot of information and a lot of fun. Level 2 and 3, when you go, Nandini, you are now delving deeper into the actual therapeutic interventions. So from level 2 onwards, you will start to work with, on each other in the class with tools like age regression, body syndromes, corrective therapy. We work on circle therapy with fears and phobias, cord cutting. You will go into void identification. So by level 3, you're developing a toolkit and you get all your interventions with you. When you move to level 4 and 5, you're now crossing over to the more metaphysical aspect of hypnotherapy. So if that interests you, then in store in level 4 and 5 is life scripting, it's reframing, rescripting. You have, if you believe in past lives, that's where it comes. Or alternatively, we call it ancestral life. So it doesn't matter which belief system we come from. You will be dealing a lot more with energy work, your chakras, your aura, crystal healing. What else? RRT, induction through, the body. You will learn about how we work with energies, energetic attachments, so on and so forth. Now, how fast, Nandini, or how slow you want to do it is completely up to you. I've mentioned to you the number of days, but for example, if you want to do it really fast, I have seen my students finish the entire course within a span of 6 to 8 months. And I've also had students who take 2 years because everybody's need is different. Some people are working, some want to do it fast, and some want to do it slow. Now, if you are going to start in June, you will finish by October because I'm pretty sure of the schedule now that there is a level 5 in October. So it depends on you. I'll give you an example. The last 2 batches that I have taught, they were so keen and they wanted to do it so fast that I've ended up teaching like the level 1 in April. That batch I've just completed level 2 for them now in May, and they are ready for level 3. They're going to do level 3, level 4, and by October, they're going to be completing the entire course. I hope that answers your question. Now, with every level, you do get a certificate at each level. The moment you finish level 2, you start to work with each other. You start to work with friends, family, people outside. You start to work on your case studies. So the theory is reinforced by the practicals. We as the trainers are available to you to guide you through this process. That's about what I think you mentioned about your question about the duration. So it is completely up to you how fast, how slow you want to do it. As I say, from my experience, I've seen people do it in 6 months, and I've also seen people do it in 1.5, 2 years. After you finish your level 5, you will do a multiple choice question, like a test, and and all your case studies need to be submitted, and then you get a final certificate which will help you, which is your final certificate which says you're a certified hypnotherapist. Now this course, and we are affiliated to the KHDA, and that certificate will, if you want, you could get it attested with KHDA and you're good to go, ready to practice and take it forward. How sure are we that during hypnotic state, it is not one that is the imagination question, that we are not imagining? Well, this is a very frequently asked question, and thank you for bringing it up. We do not know. To answer you very directly, we follow the client. First what happens is it's pacing and leading. So we pace the client and we have an objective and we take client. Now, the question here is, Nandini, that when you take somebody in trance, if it is really somebody is imagining, then they could imagine anything and everything. But actually, when you work with people, you'll realize that their imagination is also so centered to that problem that they're working on. Say, for example, and second thing, many a times, imagination is what? I can imagine things when I have a clue about it. Sometimes under hypnosis, people also come across very, very repressed memories, and then they go back and they check and they figure out that, yeah, that actually happened. So, yes, there is no way to say whether somebody is imagining or not, but just think of it. Nobody comes for a session, pays the money, spends 1 hour to just imagine. If they had to imagine, imagination, wishful thinking can happen at any point of time. And because we can't do that, because our mind doesn't allow us to do that, is the reason we go into the trance with complete guidance from the therapist to go and pick up those files, not imagination on one side, and number two, not creating false memories on the other side. That is another very big fear that people have with hypnotherapy, that am I going to imagine, am I going to create fake memories? No, that's not the kind of work we do. It's a very guided process, it's a very led process, it's a question and answer. And yeah, sometimes people come out and say, oh, maybe I imagined. But let me tell you, as a therapist, what is our objective? Our objective is that our client heals. So when we say that, if client comes and for the sake of argument, if we say that somebody has imagined and that imagination actually ends up healing the person, then it is worth that imagination. But I have never come across any clients who have imagined things. They will go back to those traumatic events, they will go back to repressed events, they will go back to events which they thought didn't matter, and that is the magic of the healing. Let me know if that again answers your question. Otherwise, of course, I will again try and answer it. Varsha, thank you so much for the clarity with which you explained. Can you please let us know how much practice is required after each level? I understand more better. Yeah, Varsha, so practice, if you ask me as a teacher, practice starts from day one. The more, the merrier. Why? Because you're also learning a new art, you're learning a new science, and the more you work, the more confidence you get. There is no hard and fast rule about how many hours of practice that you do outside the class. In the class, Varsha, it is my responsibility to ensure that I will first teach a concept, I will do a demonstration of it, and then in the class, people will work with each other. So there is supervised practice that is built into this training program, and that is good enough. Now, once you finish, you can keep practicing, and my suggestion is practice as much as you can, because sometimes you'll come across different kind of people, you will have different queries, so it's an ongoing process. So you practice for level 1. When you come to level 2, ideally you should be very thorough with your induction techniques. Then you start to practice and do it in class first, of course, and then outside you will work with relationship issues, you can work with fears and phobias. The list is endless. After level 2, you will need to at least submit 2 cases, which means you are going to practice at least with 2 people. But it is very subjective and there is no end to it. So my suggestion to all my students all the time is, from day 1, level 1, explore, practice, check what is your style, what works for you, what kind of approach works for you, what kind of approach works for your clients. Because see, at the end of the day, we are working with human beings, we are not working with robots, so it's not the same experience. And let me tell you, as a therapist, I'm working for quite a few years now. Each client is different. They may come with the same issues, but when you work with them, you realize that it's a complete different ball game. So practice is very, very important. How we support you in that is, as teachers, every month we hold a hypnotherapy support groups, which is a closed group for only the students. I'm going to hold one on the 28th of this month, so you will get all the details for all my students who are here with me today. And you practice, you ask questions, you go back and practice again, and that's how we become pros and we become masters of our art. Nandini's question was answered. How different is hypnotherapy from Tasso, and why does Tasso work for some people when hypnotherapy doesn't? Okay, so Tasso is the name of the institute, which is a specialization course in transpersonal regression therapy. So imagine hypnotherapy to be a bigger bubble, and inside that bubble is a small bubble which we call as regression therapy. So for somebody who has had a background in any of the healing modalities could take up Tasso, could study Tasso. And Tasso, the difference is hypnotherapy, there's an induction. So we induct through the mind. There are different categories and there are different ways to induct. Tasso induction is more through the body. So it focuses a lot more on body sensations and body memories. It is not true that Tasso works for some and hypnotherapy. Now, let me give you a broad view. Different modalities work for different people. So for some people, hypnotherapy works beautifully. For some people, it will not work. Theta healing will work. For some people, Theta will not work. Reiki will work. And for somebody, Tasso will work. Tasso, it depends on the level of awareness and the kind of issue we are dealing with. So Tasso has beautiful interventions when it comes to say accident trauma release, surgical trauma release, any form of regression. So regression can be, regression means this life which is from today to where I was born. Regression could be prenatal, which is when we are in our mother's womb. Regression could be anything beyond that. So that could be into the lives of our ancestors, that could be our past lives, that could be life between lives. So now from physical, you're going into the metaphysical. I have done both, I practice both, and both are absolute fabulous modalities. It depends, like, it depends on, there are certain things which Tasso will be very precise, and there are certain issues where hypnosis will work better. So it's not a comparison. It truly depends on with what issue client is coming. Okay. Zara, what if why am I losing? Okay. What if a client doesn't give permission to work with them or keep sabotaging the session? In a sense, could it mean they cannot be hypnotized or they're not ready to resolve the issue? Okay, yeah. So if they don't give permission, we don't work with them to begin with. I know what you're talking about, Zara, and you will learn about self-sabotage, passive-aggressive behavior when you start with level 3. It is not that they can't be hypnotized, it is they don't want to be hypnotized. So can is for everyone, everyone can be hypnotized, everyone can go into the trance state if they wish to, which means the latter part of your question is what I would agree with, that at some level, now this is not to criticize anyone, but at some level, this client is probably not yet ready. The other thing could be, Zara, that there is a lot of myths about hypnotherapy, so people get very scared. They feel they will lose control. So for a client like this, it is very important to explain what hypnotherapy is and what it isn't. It is not that the therapist is controlling the session or putting suggestions. So if you can have a one-on-one chat explaining what it means, and it will only work with permission. There is no way on earth. If, for example, if conscious mind says no, there is no hypnosis beyond that. It will not work. So to answer your question, two things. Either it is an issue client is not yet there to work upon or resolve. Number two is there are very, very strong myths about hypnotherapy and client is very worried to let go. And number 3, hypnotherapy is not the right modality for him or her. Some other modality, say CBT may work, metaphor therapy can work, family constellations can work, something else will work. So 3 probable reasons why client is not giving permission. Nandini, when one is in a meditative state, if it is different from hypnotic state, do we initially need a guide, trainer to guide through a particular issue one has, or can self-hypnosis help? Nandini, to begin with, my recommendation is always to go with a therapist, because the therapist has, the reins in his or her hands, in the sense that it is A, completely safe, B, there is very clear guidance. It's like a dance, it's like salsa, it's like tango, where both client and therapist work in tandem. So for beginners, 110%, I would prefer for somebody to go through a therapist for that guide. Self-hypnosis also works, but self-hypnosis is not a therapy in itself. Self-hypnosis is a top-up, it's like the icing on the cake. So when a client has worked with me, say for example, client comes in with an issue, say fears or phobias, we do the session. After the session, I would teach the client self-hypnosis and then guide client to do self-hypnosis for the next 21 days to reinstate this healing. But in the beginning, my recommendation is definitely to work with a therapist. It's just more easier, it's faster, it's more, precise, and the healing happens really fast. Self-hypnosis is a beautiful tool to reinforce that healing. Welcome, Ajit. Okay, so I will also see you in the course. I'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Great. Okay. Any other questions? Usually, how many sessions are needed generally? Nandini, it's also very, very subjective. So, example, a client comes with a fear, and if we can absolutely very well know that it's a fear, a single session can heal clients of a fear. If a client comes with phobia, then client may need anywhere between 3, 5, or 7 sessions. If client comes with a repetitive pattern, again, if you're looking at regression, then we are looking at anywhere between 3 to 5 sessions. I cannot pinpoint and say how many, totally dependent on A, client, and B, the issue that they come with. For example, in this course, we also learn about couple counseling. So if you're seeing a couple and you're doing relationship counseling, because then you end up working with 2 clients at the same time, it may take a little longer. But absolutely, as a therapist, I can tell you, I have seen a single session remission of the issues, and I've also seen with people when it takes a little longer. Totally dependent on the issue and the client as well. You're welcome. We still have a bit of time, so I'm here. Please feel free to shoot your questions. I'm going to keep this slide open as well so that you have my details. My phone number is here, my email address is here, and in any case, I work exclusively at Illumination. So if there are questions later on, if there's anything you want to reach out to and ask, please, you can feel free to contact me. Shamil, what methods of payment do you accept for the courses? You could pay in person at the center, or I'm pretty sure they can send you a link, like a digital link, and you could pay through that as well. I will ask the center, Pia, if you can make a note of it and let them know, I have paid myself for healing sessions at Illumination. So I'm pretty sure that you could do that online as well. So both on-site and online. So welcome, Shyamli. Nandini has a question. If we need to learn different healing modalities, is there a particular route to go about, like Reiki, hypnotherapy, Theta? No, Nandini. There is. You see, it depends on what resonates with you. I can share my journey. I have been practicing Reiki for many years, like more than 20 years now, and I never correlated that with hypnotherapy. I came into Illuminations. I did this. I studied the same course, and I realized for me, mind sciences attracted me. It made logical sense to me. So I started with hypnotherapy. And then I got fascinated with the power of the subconscious mind. So I ended up doing many other modalities, like I did metaphor therapy, and I did the specialization for regression therapy, that is TASO, and then I did family constellations. Then I branched off into counseling, teen counseling, play therapy for children, working with children 18 months onwards. So there is no set route. I like when I see my colleagues, the other therapists that I know of my batch, each one of us have come from a very different background, and I would suggest see what resonates with you. So like Reiki, Pranic, these are more energy based modalities. Hypnotherapy, NLP, TASO, they are more mind science oriented. Family constellation is a psychotherapeutic modality. So there are different modalities. And yeah, once one door opens, I can tell you, you will just not stop at one. You will keep adding to what works best for you. So there is no format for it. But I have, for example, NLP practitioners who have done this hypnotherapy course from my students I'm talking about. I've had doctors, nurses who do this course. I have people from education background who come and do this course. What else? Yeah, I've got a lot of Reiki healers who have done this course, Theta healers. So it's a mix, and you will find your path. You will know what resonates with you. The beauty of this course particularly is because it touches on all of this. It touches on the hardcore Kapacinian American hypnotherapy, clinical hypnotherapy. It touches upon Ericksonian methods of hypnotherapy. We learn a bit of NLP in this course. We are looking at energy modalities like, a diagnosis of our chakras, healing of our chakras with hands or with Reiki, with crystals. So this is a very broad base, and from there you can branch into whatever you feel like. Okay, so I guess welcome, Nandini. We are at the fag end of the hour. I am still here for the next few minutes. Should you have any questions, you can shoot. If not, then thank you to all my students who came and joined me. And for the rest of you, I see there's so many of you who is joining the class. Yes, please do as I say. And I don't say it because I'm teaching. I genuinely say it because this is one course that literally has impacted me in so many ways, personally and professionally. And I can vouch, even with level 1, your life will not be the same. You'll have so many tools and techniques that life will become easier, lighter, and more enjoyable. So yes, Varsha, look forward. Please do enroll, and I'll see you in class in 2 weeks' time. Take care, everyone. Thank you one more time for joining me today. Have a good evening, and I'll see probably most of you very soon. I will be around, as I said, for a few moments, and then I'll log off. Thank you. Thank you all. for so many messages and so many questions. It was a pleasure today. Thanks, Jamil. Have a good evening. Thanks, Nandini. Thank you so much. Bye and have a nice evening. Take care.